She thought she was just looking for a quiet seat at the company gala. Instead, she sat across from the CEO and told him everything wrong with the company. Unfiltered, unaware, unapologetic. Now branded the most hated intern in her department, Anita Baker must navigate office politics, silent punishments, and brutal whispers, while the CEO who should have fired her keeps inviting her in closer. Some mistakes ruin careers. This one might just change everything. The ballroom at Lexington Grand was bathed in soft golden lights, each crystal on the chandelier glittering like a miniature star. Tables were draped in velvet cloth, cutlery aligned with military precision, and each seat bore a gold-lettered name card. Waiters in white gloves moved like chess pieces, carrying trays of wine and hors d'oeuvres. It was the kind of event that whispered power in every detail. Anita Baker lingered at the entrance, tugging at the sleeve of her modest navy blue dress. She felt like a misplaced comma in a sentence too important for her to read. A shy 23-year-old intern from the marketing department, this was her first corporate function, and she had no clue what to do. Her eyes scanned the hall. Every table seemed occupied by people who belonged. They laughed too loudly, drank too smoothly, and greeted each other with the ease of old wealth. A few interns huddled awkwardly near the buffet table, but Anita's introversion clamped her feet to the floor. She didn't want to be seen with the group that already looked out of place. A round table near the stage looked unusually empty, elegant and pristine, its center adorned with white orchids and a small, reserved sign tucked behind the floral arrangement. But in her growing panic and the distracting glitter of everything, Anita missed the sign entirely. She saw only an empty chair and a chance to disappear from attention. She took the seat. It was silent bliss. For 2 whole minutes. Then someone pulled out the chair opposite hers and sat down. He was tall, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Charcoal suit, crisp shirt, tie. His smile was casual but sharp, like a man used to being listened to even when whispering. He gave her a quick once-over, not judgmental, more curious, and then spoke. "Well, either you're extremely confident," he said, voice smooth and amused, "or incredibly lost." Anita's heart stopped. I'm sorry. Is this seat taken?" "Yes," he said, then leaned in slightly. "By me. But since you got here first, I suppose we'll have to share." Anita's cheeks went red. She half stood, flustered. "I didn't realize I can move." No, he interrupted, waving a hand. "Please stay. You're the most interesting thing I've seen all night." That made her pause. Was he mocking her? "I'm sorry," she said again, clutching her clutch bag like a life vest. "I thought this was just a regular seat." He grinned. "Well, it's not. But I'm enjoying the mistake." There was a sparkle in his eye, something disarming. Against her instincts, she sat back down, still tense but a little less so. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. "Anita." "Nice to meet you, Anita. So tell me, what department is lucky enough to have you?" "Marketing," she said. "Intern. 2 months in." "Ah, the foot soldiers. You poor things must do all the real work." Anita blinked. She wasn't used to jokes from executives. If that's what he was. He didn't act like management. Didn't speak with the vague, motivational tone they usually had. Still, she found herself chuckling nervously. It's been educational. That's corporate code for a nightmare, isn't it? She laughed, more genuinely this time. Something like that. Their conversation flowed from there, slowly at first. He asked easy questions. How she liked the city where she went to school, her favorite coffee shop. Then he began poking fun at the overly formal decor of the event. She found herself smiling more, the awkwardness gradually thinning out. "Tell me the truth," he said, leaning forward, voice conspiratorial. "How bad is it in your department? On a scale from manageable to set me on fire?" Anita hesitated. He raised a brow. Safe space. Just 2 strangers talking. Something about the way he said it made her trust him. Maybe it was the way he actually listened. Maybe it was how, for the first time, she wasn't being ignored or spoken over. So she spoke. "It's frustrating. The team is overworked. Nobody really talks to the interns." We're just thrown into tasks we don't fully understand. And when we ask questions, they act like we're inconveniencing them. Daniel hummed thoughtfully. That's discouraging. It is. I mean, I came in excited. I thought I'd learn things. But all we really learn is how to not get in anyone's way. She didn't know when she had started ranting, but once the door opened, the words spilled out. About the passive-aggressive emails. The way her supervisor, Ms. Claire Benton, treated the interns like unpaid liabilities. The cliques. The silences. The isolation. She only noticed something was off when a woman at the next table stared at her like she had just sworn at a priest. Then she caught another glance, this time from someone in senior HR. The mood around her seemed tense. Daniel didn't seem bothered. In fact, he was smiling. Not mockingly, but warmly, as if encouraging her to continue. They chatted until the lights dimmed and the MC took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice rang out. Thank you for joining us at this year's annual corporate gala. Please welcome the man who's led this company through record-breaking success, our CEO, Mr. Daniel Roth. Applause exploded around the room. Anita turned toward the stage and froze. Daniel stood, adjusted his suit jacket, and walked calmly to the podium. She was too stunned to clap. The man she had just spent 30 minutes complaining to was the CEO. Her mouth dropped open. No wonder people had been staring. No wonder the table was so polished. No wonder he asked about her department. She had just ranted about her supervisor, her team, the entire intern program, to the man who ran the entire company. She wanted to disappear, evaporate into the air, crawl under the velvet tablecloth and pretend she never existed. As he began his speech, confident, charismatic, full of grace, Anita stood slowly, cheeks on fire, and slipped away from the table. She found an empty seat in the furthest corner of the ballroom, heart racing, eyes wide with mortification. When the lights dimmed again for the presentation video, she didn't look up once. Not even when her supervisor found her with a glare so sharp it might have cut glass. The morning after the gala, Anita's alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m., but she had barely slept. Her body felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. Every muscle tight with anxiety, every thought a swirl of replayed moments. Daniel Roth, CEO. She had complained, vented to Daniel Roth. She stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, toothbrush hanging limply from her mouth. What must he have thought? Would he fire her? Laugh about it at the next board meeting? What if her entire department knew by now? She arrived at the office an hour earlier than usual, hoping to slip into her desk unnoticed. But even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed judgmental today. The elevators hadn't even warmed up their daily ding by the time she was at her workstation. At exactly 8 a.m., the rest of the interns began trickling in. She caught one of them, Dev from IT, doing a double take as he walked past her desk. Another whispered something to a colleague, who instantly turned toward her. They knew. She didn't need confirmation. She could feel it in the air, like static before a storm. Every glance carried weight now. Every silence was louder than ever. Then came the inevitable click of heels. Sharp, steady, purposeful. Claire Benton. Claire was the type of supervisor who carried herself like a judge at a sentencing hearing. Impeccably dressed, with hair that never strayed from its bun and a voice like polished glass. She stopped in front of Anita's desk, arms crossed. In my office, Claire said flatly. Anita stood up immediately, clutching her notepad even though she wasn't sure why. Her legs felt like twigs. As she followed Claire down the corridor, it felt like a funeral procession, except the person being buried was her career. The door clicked shut behind them. Sit. Claire didn't. She remained standing, positioned behind her glass desk like a general about to read the terms of surrender. I had a very interesting conversation this morning, she began, voice ice cold. Apparently, you had quite the evening last night. Anita's throat went dry. She didn't dare speak. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. You sat at the CEO's table. I didn't know it was his. Claire cut her off with a raised hand. I don't care about your excuses. What concerns me is what you said. To him. I didn't know who he was, Anita whispered. Oh, we all know, Claire said with a bitter little smile. And now so does everyone else. Anita flinched. Claire paced slowly. You embarrassed this department. You embarrassed me. Do you have any idea how hard we work to manage relationships with upper management? And you come in 2 months in and start mouthing off to the CEO like you're entitled to an opinion. Anita bit her tongue to stop from defending herself. What could she say? That she was just being honest? That Daniel had encouraged her? Claire stopped pacing. Effective immediately, you are off all external projects. You'll be assisting the documentation team with archival duties until further notice. Her voice dropped a notch colder. And let's make something clear. This is not a demotion. This is a correction. Anita nodded, chest tight. Dismissed. She exited the office like a ghost, returning to her desk without making eye contact with anyone. The entire floor seemed quieter than usual, as if it was holding its collective breath. By lunchtime, the whispers had evolved into full sentences. She actually told him the intern program was broken. God, what was she thinking? Does she not know how lucky she was just to be there? And worst of all, she thinks she's special now. Anita began eating lunch in the break room closet. Technically a supply area, but it had a small chair and a dusty microwave. It became her safe space, a place no one would think to look. The next few days were worse. Emails from Claire arrived with curt instructions. No greetings. No thank yous. Just sort all 2022 case files by project code and upload into Cloud Archive. Due 5 p.m. She worked silently, obediently, tucked in the lowest rung of the company's ladder. No more strategy meetings. No more brainstorm sessions. Just boxes, files, and spreadsheets. The silence wasn't limited to Claire. Some interns stopped talking to her completely. Others were polite, but forced. She was no longer one of them. She was tainted. The only reprieve came from a few odd corners. Harold from IT gave her an extra monitor, because 2 screens make life suck less. Mia from HR offered her a genuine smile in the hallway, even slipped her a note once. Don't let the vultures win. And then there was Jamal, the delivery guy, who started bringing her green tea instead of the coffee she never drank. But still, most days, Anita felt like a ghost walking through concrete halls, seen, judged, and already written off. She tried to tell herself it would blow over, that people would forget. But every time she passed the elevators, someone would mutter, "That's her," just under their breath. And she couldn't stop thinking of Daniel's smile, how warm he had been, how different he had seemed from every other executive she'd ever met. Was he disappointed in her now? Was he laughing about it with the board? She didn't know. All she knew was that somehow she'd made herself the most hated intern in the department. And there was no going back. By the end of the first week post-gala, Anita Baker knew 3 things for certain. 1, her name was now shorthand for what not to do in the intern community. 2, Claire Benton had every intention of turning her life into a slow, grinding punishment. And 3, hiding wouldn't save her, but it might just give her enough time to figure out how to survive. Every morning, she arrived at the office before the sun rose. The janitorial staff had started greeting her like one of their own. "Early bird again, Miss B," one of them said, chuckling as he vacuumed the carpet. Anita would nod politely and slip past them into the archive room, a cold, forgotten section of the building filled with cardboard boxes and an endless list of categorization tasks. Her punishment post. She'd set down her bag, tie her hair up in a knot, and begin the day the same way she had the last 5. In silence, with dust on her hands and no one to talk to. But she did notice something curious. In the stillness of those early hours, with no one watching, she found space. She started going through documents not just to organize them, but to understand them. Marketing decks, client reports, internal memos from executives. She read them like textbooks. She was building her own curriculum. At her desk, she created a private folder on her drive titled Shadow Notes. She began logging patterns, how successful campaigns were structured, which projects tanked and why, which names kept showing up on winning presentations. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Later in the day, the office filled with the usual symphony of keystrokes, clicking heels, and low-level gossip. Anita kept her head down. Every time she emerged for a quick trip to the break room, she felt eyes on her. Not openly hostile, just wary. Like she was radioactive. On one such trip, she opened the fridge to grab her packed lunch and found a note stuck to her container. VIP seating reserved. Winking face. The handwriting was unfamiliar. The message clear. Her stomach twisted. She threw the lunch away and went back to the archive room, her appetite gone. Still, she refused to crumble. Not in front of them. She learned to listen more. Watch more. She'd sit in the back of open meetings she was no longer invited to participate in, taking notes even when no one acknowledged her presence. She found the company's internal database and taught herself how to pull analytics reports. She began seeing marketing not as chaos, but as choreography. And slowly, she started understanding how the company danced. But it wasn't all solitude. Small kindnesses lit her path like fireflies. Harold from IT, gruff and bearded with thick glasses, showed up one morning holding a brand new ergonomic keyboard. "You're typing all day. Don't wreck your hands like I did," he said without ceremony, before leaving it on her desk and shuffling away. "Thanks," she whispered to his back. Mia from HR became a quiet supporter. One afternoon, Anita found a folded sticky note on her mousepad. It read, "He saw something in you. Don't let them make you forget that. Mia." And then there was Jamal. Jamal wasn't technically part of the company. He worked for a third-party delivery service. But he made rounds daily, dropping off lunch orders, documents, the occasional flower bouquet. "You look like a green tea girl," he said one afternoon, sliding a steaming cup in her direction without asking. She blinked. "I didn't order." "I know," he said, smiling. "I just thought you could use it." From then on, every Wednesday like clockwork, a cup appeared at her desk. They never spoke long. But she never forgot it. One afternoon, while shelving outdated campaign briefs, Anita heard laughter echo from the hallway. Familiar voices. Interns. She paused, her hand on a folder, and listened. She's probably just cozying up to the CEO now. She was always a bit too quiet. Now we know why. She thinks she's smarter than everyone. Like she's different. Their voices trailed off as they walked past, never realizing she was behind the door. Anita didn't cry. Not anymore. She just stood there, breathing slowly until the sting in her chest eased enough to move again. That night, she stayed 2 hours later than everyone else. Alone. Sorting, reading, absorbing. She copied one of the outdated project decks into her private folder, not to use, but to learn from. She started noticing something else. Patterns in Claire's emails. Her supervisor sent instructions in abrupt bullet points, always with a strict deadline. But Anita started turning in tasks before the deadline, flawless, sorted, annotated. She added suggestions. Quietly, carefully. Claire never responded. Not once. But she didn't reprimand her either. And to Anita, that was progress. Then, 3 weeks after the gala, she received a curious email. Subject, calendar notification, observation seat available. From operations team. To Anita Baker. Location, main conference room. Time, 2:30 p.m. No explanation. No signature. She double-checked the invite. Her name was definitely on it. She hesitated. Was this a trap? A mistake? But she went. The meeting was packed. Senior leads, creatives, project managers. Anita slipped into the far back row, barely breathing. No one acknowledged her presence. She pulled out her notepad and took it all in. Claire was at the front, presenting. She never looked in Anita's direction. But when the meeting ended, Claire didn't say a word about her being there. And again, to Anita, that silence meant something. By the end of that week, she began walking through the office differently. She didn't hide anymore. She still wasn't welcome. But she walked like someone who knew where she was going. She wasn't climbing the ladder they gave her. She was building her own. The email arrived at exactly 6:17 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, when most of the office had already emptied and Anita was alone in the archive room, compiling a cross-departmental report on expired product lines. She almost didn't see it. Her eyes were bleary. The light on her second monitor flickered softly, and she was about to shut down for the night when the notification pinged in the corner of her screen. Subject: Meeting request. From Office of the CEO. To Anita Baker. Time: Wednesday, 10 a.m. Location: 24th floor, Executive Office Suite. She read it 3 times. Her stomach dropped. The CEO. Daniel Roth. She stared at the screen, pulse thudding in her neck. No subject line clarification. No regarding. Just her name, a time, and a location that most interns never dared to step foot on. She sat back in her chair, heart pounding. Was this it? The final conversation before dismissal? An apology meeting? Or worse, was he just now realizing what she'd said that night at the gala? She shut down her computer and walked home in a daze. Her apartment, tiny 5th floor near the rail line, felt colder than usual that night. She didn't eat, couldn't sleep. She lay on her back, replaying every word she'd said at the CEO's table. The intern program is broken. No one listens to us. It feels like we don't matter. What had she been thinking? She woke up at 5 a.m. sharp. She dressed carefully. White blouse, gray blazer, slacks. Not flashy, not forgettable. Her hair was neat. Shoes clean. Not a trace of nerves on the outside, though her stomach twisted with every step toward the elevator. When she reached the 24th floor, her ID badge didn't even scan at first. She stood there, flushed and fumbling, until a well-dressed assistant opened the glass door from inside. "Anita Baker?" the woman asked. "Yes. Mr. Roth is expecting you." The assistant smiled, not kindly but not unkindly either. Just professionally. She led Anita past a row of private meeting rooms and minimalist glass-walled offices until they stopped in front of a frosted glass door that simply read, "D. Roth." The assistant knocked once, waited, then pushed the door open. "Sir, she's here." Daniel Roth was seated behind a massive walnut desk, sleeves rolled up, tie off. When he looked up, his eyes lit with recognition. Not surprise, not coldness, but something warmer. "Anita," he said. "Come in." His voice was the same as that night. Unassuming. Casual. Dangerous in its comfort. She stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. "Please," he gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit. Want coffee? Tea?" She shook her head. "Didn't think so. You strike me as someone who doesn't accept favors easily." He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. For a moment, he just looked at her. Not in a calculating way, more like someone measuring a painting for the second time. Then he smiled. "You thought you were getting fired, didn't you?" She blinked. "A little." His smile widened. "Relax. I didn't call you up here to ruin your day." "Then why am I here?" she asked, her voice tight. He leaned forward. "Because I haven't stopped thinking about what you said that night." Her breath hitched. "I don't often get raw feedback," he said. "Everyone wants to impress me. You told me the intern program sucks. That no one listens to the lower tier. That the people in charge are too busy pretending to lead." She opened her mouth, unsure whether to apologize or defend herself, but he held up a hand. "And I loved every word of it." Anita blinked. "You were honest," he said. "And funny. And real. That's rare. And rare things stick in my mind." She couldn't tell if he was teasing her or genuinely impressed. Probably both. "I'm not sure what to say," she muttered. He tilted his head. "Say yes to something." She frowned slightly. "To what?" He turned his monitor toward her. On the screen was a slide titled, "Reform, Building a Better Internship Experience." Subheading, Intern-Driven Insights and Bottom-Up Design. "I want your help," he said. "I'm building a team to revamp our intern program, and I want someone who's been on the ground. Someone who's not afraid to say what's broken." Her throat went dry. "You want me on a team?" Daniel shrugged. "For now, I want your brain. Your insight. You've been quietly navigating this place while everyone else ignored you. You've survived Benton, avoided politics, and you still get your work done early." He smirked. "I've seen the timestamps." She flushed slightly. "You're not in trouble, Anita," he said. "You're the most observant person in your department. Probably in the whole building." She stared at him, struggling to process. "You'll still report to Benton for now, but I'll loop you in on weekly check-ins with my team. You'll attend via Zoom. Quietly. No one else needs to know yet. You'll listen, take notes, and give me your perspective once a week. Sound good?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." "Good," he said, then smiled again, that same effortless, slightly wicked smile. "Oh, and for what it's worth, don't stop talking like you did that night. It's rare for someone in this place to say what they actually think. I need more of that." She left the office lightheaded. The elevator ride down felt like floating. Her feet didn't quite touch the ground. The whispers in the hallway were still there. The glares. The indifference. But something was different. She knew something they didn't. She had been seen, not just noticed, seen, by the one person with enough power to shift her entire fate. And for the first time in weeks, Anita allowed herself the smallest smile. Maybe she wasn't doomed after all. Maybe she was just getting started. The first Zoom call was nothing like she expected. It happened the following Monday at 8:15 a.m. The invite came from Daniel's executive assistant, accompanied by a brief note. "Join via link. Keep your mic off. Observe. Emily, on behalf of Mr. Roth." Anita logged on exactly 1 minute early. She was seated in the dim back corner of the HR department's unused interview room, her laptop propped up on a crate of outdated onboarding kits. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest as the meeting loaded. And there he was, Daniel Roth, already on screen. Looking like he hadn't slept, collar unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, sipping something from a white mug that said, "This might be whiskey." "Morning, everyone," he said, smooth as ever. "Let's talk about the elephant in the building, our intern program." The room on the call had heavyweights. C-suite leaders, department heads, HR executives with stern eyes and carefully curated lighting setups. Anita recognized some of them from company emails, others from the gala. Her name didn't show up on the screen. She was a ghost in the system. "Let me be blunt," Daniel continued, resting his elbows on the desk. "It's not working. Intern retention is down. Engagement is abysmal. They leave with a bitter taste. Some don't come back even when we offer full-time roles." There was a beat of silence. "Worse," he added, eyes sharp, "some of them do come back and become exactly the kind of burnt-out leaders they complained about." Uncomfortable shifting. No one argued. Daniel leaned back. "We need to change how we treat entry-level talent. So we're redesigning the experience. Real feedback, real mentorship. I've looped in an observer, someone who lived it, to support us with insight." Anita's breath hitched. He didn't say her name, but she knew who he meant. Over the next week, she received 3 files from Daniel's assistant: internal surveys, previous year feedback, and a report on intern attrition. Each was marked confidential, each a glimpse behind the polished PR face of the company. Anita dove into them with a kind of hunger she hadn't felt since college. She took notes obsessively, created charts, connected dots, wrote down phrases from surveys that matched what she'd lived. "No one asked what we thought. I was afraid to speak up. Felt like a ghost in a maze." She wrote her own memo and sent it to Daniel's assistant before the next meeting. Another quiet ping in her inbox. He said to come up. "Emily." She took the elevator again, stomach fluttering like the first time. But this time, when the doors opened, she walked with more confidence. Daniel's door was half open. She knocked once and stepped inside. He was sitting at a small side table, not behind his intimidating desk, with a laptop and 2 cups of coffee. He held one up. "Still not a coffee drinker?" She gave him a crooked smile. "Green tea." "Damn. I forgot." He swapped the coffee for a bottle of sparkling water from the minibar. "One day I'll get it right." She sat opposite him. Daniel opened his laptop. I read your notes. She tensed. They were good, he added. Really good. You hit angles our own people missed. I've lived them, she said softly. He nodded. That's exactly why I want you in this. He didn't talk down to her. Didn't over-explain. It wasn't the way bosses usually spoke to interns. It was like he was talking to a colleague. An equal. I want to try something, he said. It's optional. She leaned forward. There's an open task force forming. 5 mid-level managers. 1 rep from HR. No interns. I want you in that room, not as an intern. As a consultant. You won't have to speak if you don't want to. But I'd like you to listen. And if you do feel like speaking, I'd ask you to say exactly what you told me at the gala. No filters. She froze. I know that's a big ask, he added. But you've got something most people here don't: perspective. You see clearly because you haven't been conditioned not to. But everyone hates me, she said quietly. It slipped out before she could stop herself. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it wasn't the teasing kind. You'd be surprised how fast people change their minds when they realize someone they dismissed might actually be right. He stood, walked to his desk, and pulled something from the drawer. A laminated photo. It was him, 20-something, awkward in a company polo, standing beside a printer that was clearly mid-malfunction. I was the intern once too, he said. Didn't talk to anyone. Ate lunch in the mailroom. Got told to stay in my lane. He paused. And the first time I spoke in a meeting, the director rolled his eyes and said, "Cute. Thanks, kid." She stared. You're not crazy. This place makes smart people feel small. It's a habit we need to break. Anita didn't know what to say. No one had ever talked to her like this. Not even in college. And certainly not in the corporate world. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. I'll join the task force. Daniel grinned. Good. Then his eyes twinkled again with that humor that had first disarmed her at the gala. Just don't call me sir in there. She smiled. Noted. When she left his office, the elevator doors opened with a familiar ding. Mia from HR was inside. Their eyes met. Anita stepped in. Mia gave her a look, not of pity this time, but curiosity. Respect. I heard you're on the task force, Mia said lightly. Anita blinked. How? Word travels up here too. A pause. I think it's a good thing, Mia added. A fresh voice. Anita nodded slowly. Thanks. When she stepped off the elevator, she walked back into her department, and the same frigid stares met her from across the bullpen. But this time she didn't flinch. She sat down, opened her laptop, and pulled up the task force prep folder. Let them stare. They didn't know it yet, but Anita Baker had just stepped into a room they'd never thought she belonged in. And she wasn't leaving anytime soon. If before she was a ghost, now she was a target. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in increments, in the small, sharp changes that slithered beneath the surface. The day after her first task force meeting, Anita arrived early, as always. Her workstation was untouched, but her desk chair had been replaced with an older, squeaky one. No note. No explanation. She said nothing. Later that week, her access to a shared drive was mysteriously revoked. IT insisted it was a glitch, but it took 3 days to restore. 3 days during which she couldn't complete her assigned department tasks. And Claire made sure to mention it in a tense one-on-one. You used to be efficient, Anita. You're slipping. Maybe too much attention is distracting you. She didn't bite. Anita had become fluent in passive punishment. She smiled softly, nodded, and quietly rebuilt her own tracking system using public folders. If they blocked her from one tool, she found another. She'd survived worse. But the atmosphere had changed. Interns no longer whispered. They stared. Management no longer ignored her. They watched. It wasn't just Claire anymore. It was the subtle distance from people she used to sit beside. It was the way interns went quiet when she walked into the break room. It was the name, CEO's pet, that had been scrawled across a post-it and left under her mouse one afternoon. It stung. Not because she wanted to be liked, but because the assumption was that she'd gotten lucky, that her new visibility wasn't earned, that Daniel Roth had simply taken pity on her. Or worse, interest. The worst of it came during an internal showcase meeting. It was the second week of her task force assignment, and her voice, previously a whisper, had finally broken through. She'd written a short report proposing a pilot mentorship initiative for interns, pairing them with non-managerial staff in other departments. It was simple, practical, scalable. Daniel liked it. At the next task force meeting, he brought it up in front of everyone. "This," he said, holding up a printed copy, "is the kind of thinking we need." 5 faces around the table turned toward her. "Anita drafted this after our last session. Anyone have thoughts?" One senior associate, Mitchell, mid-30s, opinionated, always loud, scoffed. "Honestly, it reads more like a college project. It's idealistic." Another chimed in. "We've already got mentorship in place, don't we?" Daniel looked at them calmly. "We have a program." She's pointing out that no one's actually using it. Silence. Mitchell shifted in his chair. "I'm just saying, we're handing a lot of influence to someone who's not even permanent staff." That's when Daniel's tone changed, barely. "She's not here to be permanent," he said. "She's here because I asked her to be." He didn't raise his voice. But the message was clear. The conversation moved on. But Anita felt it, that subtle change in the air. Later that day, Mitchell walked past her desk and muttered just loud enough, "You've got powerful friends. Must be nice." Anita didn't respond. She was learning the power of silence. She had no armor but her work, and she doubled down. Despite the pressure, her proposal was fast-tracked into a beta initiative. 3 interns were selected for the test run. Feedback was positive within the first week. She got no credit in public, of course, but Daniel sent her a message after hours. "Solid groundwork. Quietly effective. My favorite kind. D." It meant more than a trophy. Still, the backlash kept growing. Once, she walked into the restroom and found 2 interns at the mirror talking. "I'd suck up 2 if it meant skipping the grunt work." They didn't flinch when they saw her. Didn't apologize. She walked past them, washed her hands, met her own eyes in the mirror, and walked out. Not a word. But it stayed with her. At night, she lay awake replaying their words. Her brain circled the same question over and over. Was this worth it? Claire grew colder. No more stares, just silence. That was worse. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. She simply acted as if Anita didn't exist. And yet somehow she did. In department meetings, Claire would reiterate ideas Anita had quietly submitted 2 weeks earlier. Word for word. Anita didn't object. She just made sure Daniel got the original version, time-stamped and noted. She received another invite. Subject, coffee with Dr. Location, rooftop terrace. No assistant involved this time. Just a private note. Casual. She hesitated before accepting. It was quiet at the top. The wind tousled her hair as she stepped onto the terrace. Daniel was already there, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, holding 2 mugs. "Still no green tea," he said, offering her a cup. "But this one's herbal. Wild berry something." She took it. Close enough. They sat in silence for a moment. The city spread below them, glass towers, golden sunlight, horns echoing in the distance. He looked at her sideways. "Rough week." She gave him a long look. "Are you checking in as a CEO or a mentor?" He grinned. "Neither. Just a guy who's been where you are." She sighed. "I didn't expect any of this. The whispers. The pushback. The distance." Daniel nodded slowly. People get territorial. Especially when someone new sees the cracks they've been pretending aren't there. She sipped the tea. It was warm. Sweet. Grounding. "I thought if I just worked hard enough, they'd respect me." "They won't," he said bluntly. "Not all of them. And that's the point." She raised a brow. "Respect that comes cheap isn't worth having," he said. "Let them talk. Let them glare. You're still moving forward, and they're stuck staring." Anita let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Daniel stood, turning to face the skyline. "You're going to have to get used to this, Anita. The higher you go, the lonelier it gets." But it also gets clearer. She looked at him carefully, really seeing him for the first time, not just as the CEO or the charming man at the gala, but as someone who understood. He turned back to her, smile gentle now. You doing okay? She nodded. Yeah, I am. Good, he said. Because they haven't seen anything yet. The rooftop door closed behind her with a soft click. And as Anita stepped back into the building, into the narrow halls where voices carried and eyes followed, she walked straighter. Let them whisper. Let them watch. She wasn't the intern who made a mistake anymore. She was the intern who made them uncomfortable. And that meant she was exactly where she needed to be. The first time Daniel Roth asked her to meet outside of work hours, Anita hesitated. It was a Friday. The office was thinning out early, weekend energy in the air, people loosening ties and glancing at the clock. Anita was at her desk finishing edits on a presentation draft when her phone buzzed. DR, you busy tonight? She stared at the message. Then another came. DR, nothing dramatic. Just coffee. And maybe a real conversation, for once not through HR filters. She typed. Erased. Typed again. A, off the record? DR, off everything. They met at a quiet cafe tucked into a side street just off Fifth Avenue. It was the kind of place with Edison bulbs, secondhand novels on the window ledges, and baristas who wore glasses that looked vintage but probably cost $300. Anita arrived first, her coat still damp from the rain. She took a seat near the back. Her nerves buzzed, not from fear, but curiosity. Uncertainty. That feeling of standing on the edge of something. Daniel showed up 5 minutes later. No suit, just jeans and a dark coat, his shirt sleeves casually rolled. Wild berry tea, he said, setting a cup in front of her. Got it right this time. She smiled. Took you long enough. He slid into the seat across from her. There was a pause. Just the two of them, the hum of conversations around them, and the soft clink of cutlery. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Do you know what I saw when you walked into that VIP table? Anita blinked. A disaster? He grinned. No. I saw someone who didn't know she was about to change her life. She looked down at her tea. Daniel continued. You were nervous. Guarded. But then you started talking. And I saw a mind that hadn't been dulled by politics yet. Someone unfiltered. Rare. She swallowed. I was terrified when I saw you go on stage. I could tell. He chuckled. Your eyes said, dig my grave now. I felt like a complete idiot, she admitted. You weren't. You were necessary. They sat in silence for a beat. Then he said quietly, you know, it's not just the interns who feel invisible. She looked at him. He shrugged. Everyone assumes the CEO has control, power. But half the time, I'm just putting out fires. People lie to me, smile at me, then go do the opposite of what I ask. Why? Because that's how corporate culture is built. Top-down silence. Bottom-up fear. And in the middle, a whole lot of people faking confidence. She watched him. The candor was unexpected. And you? She asked. Where do you fit? I'm trying to rebuild something honest, he said. But I need people like you to do it. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, it's lonely, she said. He met her eyes. It always is for people who care too much. Weeks passed. Anita's name began appearing in more email threads. Quietly, respectfully. She didn't ask for credit, but she started getting it. Her proposals were mentioned in meetings. She was invited to internal brainstorming calls, not as a token intern, but a contributor. Even Claire, while never warm, had shifted her tone. Less condescension. Less coldness. It wasn't approval, but it was recognition. Then, one evening, as she was packing up to leave, her inbox pinged again. Subject: Internship Program, Final Approval Round. From DR. Time: 7 p.m. tonight. Location: Executive Lounge, 24th floor. No assistant this time. No intermediaries. She almost didn't go. Part of her still felt like the intern hiding in closets. But she did go. When she entered the Executive Lounge, a sleek, glass-walled space with a skyline view, Daniel was there, pacing, a folder in hand. He looked up. There she is. What's this? She asked, heart pounding. He walked over and handed her the folder. Inside, a finalized version of the new intern program proposal. She flipped through it. Her notes. Her structure. Her words. You're giving me credit? She asked, stunned. More than that, Daniel said. I'm offering you a role. She looked up sharply. What kind of role? Temporary, project-based. Not just an extension. I want you to co-lead the rollout of this initiative across departments. A rotational coordinator. You'll report directly to ops. You'll have the authority to question. Push. Fix. Anita could barely process it. But I'm still an intern. Daniel's voice softened. No, you were an intern. Now you're a part of the solution. The backlash came fast. Some people said she was being rewarded for one good idea. Others said Daniel was just playing favorites. Even a few managers called her progress suspicious. But none of it mattered. Because for every side eye, there was a new intern who came up to her with quiet gratitude. For every rolled eye, there was a mid-level associate who asked to join the mentorship pilot she'd helped build. And for every whisper, there was one undeniable truth. She had changed something. It wasn't a love story. Not at first. But something had shifted between them after that night at the cafe. They talked more, joked more, trusted each other more. And one evening, when they were walking out after a long strategy session, Daniel turned to her. You know, he said, I've been thinking. Dangerous, she teased. He grinned. It is. But still, I keep thinking about how you just sat at that table without knowing who I was. She laughed. Don't remind me. No, I mean it. He stopped walking. That was probably the best mistake I've seen all year. They stood there, outside the building, city lights reflecting in the glass. And in the space between their words, something else bloomed. Not obligation. Not hierarchy. Just two people, wounded by the same system, finding an unlikely mirror in one another. By the end of the quarter, the intern program had new branding. Real mentors. Monthly feedback loops. Anonymous reporting. Optional rotation tracks. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. And Anita? She was no longer the intern who complained to the CEO. She was the intern who sat at the wrong table and ended up at the right one. The intern who was silenced and then amplified. The intern who sparked a change. And Daniel Roth? He was still sharp, still powerful, still funny in the way that made people disarm themselves without realizing it. But he wasn't untouchable anymore. Because somewhere in the cracks of an outdated system, a quiet voice had dared to speak. And he had listened. We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.